places to make money, like when they built that church in Tiffany. They used to put on place that people used to come and pay to see them, and that's how they built part of the church. With money that they.
Do you remember your father doing any poetry or writing any of that stuff?
I don't remember him. I don't remember him ever doing it, but I remember he had a lot of stuff. We used to have an escritorio at home. An escritorio is a place. It's
like a roll top desk.
Yeah, but it had books in the back, and then a place to write. Here, and that was kind of like the trunk. That was kind of a place that you stayed away from the books, and there was a lot of books there too. That I remember. That's the first time they used to take them out once in a while, and I guess they were very scarce. Books or something must have been very scarce because they wouldn't let us handle books too much. And once in a while they'd take them out. I remember it must have been a history book because Lincoln was there. And they explained to us Lincoln dying and everything. And there was a picture of Lincoln and stuff. I remember that. And
You're saying you remembered a bowl your mom had?
A plate. It was a plate that was a very beautiful plate that had a peacock painted. It was a painted plate that her teacher had given her when she got married, and that was never used. It was in a brick front with a glass on in the front in the kitchen, and in the back just for display. And after she died, of course, I don't know how old we were. We were old enough to make a pie or something, and we decided we'd make a pie. We didn't know where to put it, so we put it on that plate. And we used to have windows just like these. Something like this that they used to pull up like this. And we used to cool everything on the window or out on the porch or somewhere because we didn't have refrigerators or in the cellar. And we put it there to cool off. And the window fell on it. Broke it to pieces. Oh, God, I could have died. My dad could have died. Oh, I don't know whether you remember that or not. It was one of my friends or one of my cousins, or we were there. And it was a treasure. It was a treasure for him, and it was a treasure for my mother. And we broke it. We didn't mean to, but we were careless. We were just very, very careless kids.
So you don't know what happened to any of your mom's stuff? You kept saying things disappeared.
Well, I don't.
I don't know.
But you don't know if your cousins got them or.
Well, I know that somebody said that one of the cousins in Tio Enriquez had one of the beds. We had some iron beds.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said he had one of them. I don't know how he got it. I really think what happened was when Emma came into the family, I think that she probably wanted her own furniture, her own things, which is understandable. A new bride, who wants to move into a house that's full of old pictures and stuff, And I think they might have stored them somewhere. And we didn't care. I didn't care. You didn't care. We didn't even think about them. Before we knew it, everything was gone. And I think I don't think they sold them. They might have given them, I don't know, because we saw the piano in Durango, or I think something that looked just like it in one of the stores, remember? Mm-hmm. Frank and I think you were along. Yeah. Says, that's our piano. That's our organ, So, I don't know. I don't know. The trunk Dad sent to Sister Rose. I know. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
I found a little one in a chicken coop. And I had it restored, and I still have it.
A little
sample trunk. But it was abandoned in the chicken coop, and I found it.
Yeah, see, I think that's what happened to a lot of it. And a lot of the jewelry and stuff was taken, I think, a lot of the times when people would come and there was nobody there except me sitting on the trunk, you said.
Maybe you told me the story.
and take some of the stuff that was in there, because that was their prized possessions, it was in that trunk. And I don't have a single piece of jewelry.
To remember her by.
To remember her. Nothing at all. But it's sad that, well, they're gone too, so what difference does it make,
All right. So you're just gonna from top to bottom. Go ahead and read it to the end.
Well,
As it is.
honey,
Read it first.
Let me
As
read
much
it.
as you can.
No, let me read it over first and
Okay.
see if I can decipher what it is. Let me see. I'm happy de verlos oír que ya tenemos otro adicional en la familia. Dios se los preste por muchos años para que sea su this I can't su sea el ponte fuerte y sepa corresponder. Mira, años para que sea su
¿Hijos?
no,
No.
sea sus
Para en sus hijos
O
sea
para que-
la fuente fuerte.
la puente fuerte.
Fuerte.
Ok, para que sea la puente fuerte y sepa corresponder los trabajos que en sus niños tuvieron ustedes para criarlo. Y
Dorinarlo. Is that an R or an N?
R. Dorinarlo y dirigirlo al bien.
I don't know. What is that?
Dorinaldo is something to direct him, I guess. Well, this is dirigirlo, is direct him.
Dorinarlo is to.
Dorinaldo. Bill knows what it is when he comes
I
out.
don't know what it is. Well, you know how you.
Yeah, but he wants
Bien.
me to read it in Spanish. Dorinaldo. Dorinaldo y dirigirlo
Yeah.
al bien y enseñarlo y that's another word, that's the same word.
Same word.
Dolinarlo a el santo temor de Dios.
I think direct him. Would that what it be? Direct him?
No, pero
that he
dirigirlo.
hides.
But
I don't know that word.
Yeah, I have a Spanish dictionary.
I've never heard it before.
My dad used to talk to us in Spanish, but just general conversation, never.
But he used to write very formally when he wrote to his friends.
What was his education?
8th or 9th grade. He taught to school for a while, you know. My mother was about that too. I don't think they ever went much beyond the 8th grade.
Why farming? Why did he do farming?
Because I think that his father was, they had a lot of cattle and stuff, you know, and they were all this is the way of life. And then Dad taught school because I think he was the only one that knew how to speak a little English and teach, you know, and be able to teach. Some of those people didn't know how to read. Dollar joiner. Dolardera croppers. DOL. DOLAN, kind of DOLRIN.
Could be DOLAR.
DOL. Freshwater, disciple, project, semantic, disciple. Okay, dolorado. Okay, tender. That could be. Maybe what he said, tenderly direct him. to the will of God or something.
Yeah, tenderly.
I bet you that's what he meant. Whatever that word is. Ooh, excuse me.
It's okay.
En el santo temor de Dios, que es el principio de la sabiduría, y no hay nada sabio sin Dios. El que ama a Dios y cumple sus preceptos, aquel es el sabio. Y para eso necesita esfuerzo, en el deber sagrado. Para eso necesita esfuerzo. Ese es el deber sagrado que tenemos todos los padres de familia. That's it. Enseñar al niño desde su tierna infancia a obedecer a Dios y después a sus padres en la tierra, sus padres en la tierra, y a conformarle conforme sea enseñado en su infancia, así crecerá. Como un árbol, si se cuida bien, algún día dará buen fruto. Al contrario, si se queda mal, crece torcido, se cuida mal, crece torcido y seco, y el fruto será inferior. Esto no quiere decir que ustedes no alcanzan a conocer lo que les aconsejo a su deber, pero es de mí aconsejarlos un tanto, porque veo que hay niños que los dejan crecer a su pura voluntad porque los aman, y el mejor modo de amarlos es prohibirlos y enseñarlos sus justos deberes. Y así, cuando sean hombres y mujeres, serán el tesoro infinito para sus padres. Y al contrario, si es perverso, puede ser el instrumento intenso de su infelicidad, que confío en Dios que no sea así. Estoy muy contento al ver que Luisa y el niño gocen completa salud, y doy gracias a Dios que ya salió con bien, y yo siempre tenía pena. Ahora les diré que yo pienso ir en este mes para allá, pero voy a guardarme a ver si viene de allá, si alguien de allá viene para el día de decoración. De otro modo iré después de ese día. Yo les escribiré a los muchachos tocante si ellos tenían idea, si alguno venía, si alguno venía, pero no han contestado hasta hoy. And then it says, aquí le mando un presente al niño WMC.
Here I sent the baby
Present
WMC.
William Mark Chavez, WMC. Cuídalo bien, que esté muy gordo cuando lo vea. Sin más, sus padres, que los ama. Dios los bendiga. Love, Dad. You didn't copy this, did you? Because I was struggling through it.
No, just go ahead and do that whole thing if you're ready. Just read it out loud like you would at church.
Okay. Okay, Tiffany, Colorado, May the 12th, 1954. Dear Bill and Louise, I am so happy de ver o oír que ya tenemos otro adicional en la familia. Dios se los preste por muchos años para que en sus hijos sea el ponte fuerte y sepa corresponder los trabajos que en sus niños tuvieron ustedes para criarlo, idoltrinarlo. Oh, I know what that means. Idoctrinarlo y dirigirlo al bien y enseñarlo y doctrinarlo en el santo temor de Dios, que ese es el principio de la sabiduría. No hay nadie sabio sin Dios. El que ama a Dios y cumple sus preceptos, aquel es el sabio. Y para eso necesita esfuerzo. Este es el deber sagrado que tenemos todos los padres de familia, enseñar al niño desde su tierna infancia a obedecer a Dios y después a sus padres en la tierra, y a conforme sea enseñado en su infancia, así crecerá como un árbol. Si se cuida bien, algún día dará buen fruto. Al contrario, si se cuida mal, crecerá torcido y seco, y el fruto será inferior. Esto no quiere decir que ustedes no alcancen a conocer lo que les aconsejo y a su deber. Pero es de mi alcanzamiento, es de mi conocimiento un tanto, porque veo que los niños que los dejan crecer a su pura voluntad, porque los aman, el mejor modo de amarlos es prohibirlos y enseñarlos sus justos deberes. Y así cuando sean hombres y mujeres, serán el tesoro infinito para los padres. Y al contrario, si es perverso, puede ser el instrumento intenso de su infelicidad, que confío en Dios que no sea así. Estoy contento al oír que Luisa y el niño gocen completa salud, y doy gracias a Dios que ya salió con bien, y yo siempre tenía pena. Ahora les diré que pienso ir en este mes para allá, pero voy a guardarme a ver si alguien de allá viene para el día de decoración. De otro modo iré después de ese día, y yo les escribí a los muchachos tocante si ellos tenían idea, si algún venía, pero no han contestado hasta hoy. Aquí les mando un presente al niño WMC. Cuídalo bien, que esté muy gordo cuando lo vea. Sin más, sus padres que los ama. Dios los bendiga. Love, Dad. That was my daddy.
Was that common for him to start in English and then go to Spanish? Or?
Usually he would write in English most of the time. He would write English, but I think thought he could express himself better in Spanish. You know, when he would give us advice and stuff, it was usually in Spanish. You know, but he'd write in English to the boys all the time. And when I was away, he would write to me in English, very little Spanish. But he could write English very well, and he could speak it well too. Except he liked to pronounce it with a Spanish accent. You know, like sometimes I'd say, well, we had a horse named Buck, and he used to call him El Buck. And I said one day, Daddy, his name isn't Buck. I always thought it was Buck, but one day I saw it written and it was Buck. I said, the name is Buck. He says, I know, you said, but I like to call him Buck. Okay, that's your privilege. It's your horse.
Well, where was he educated?
In Denver, actually.
So he grew up in Denver?
No. That's how he met my mother.
In Alamosa.
In Alamosa, finally. His father was taking him and my uncle Porfirio to school, to a boarding school in Denver. They were going by train. And they stopped off in Alamosa to visit an old friend. And the old friend was my grandfather, Gomez. And so my grandfather says, well, don't take him to Denver. Leave him here. Or he did go to Denver.
He did go to Denver.
Yeah.
He told me he went to Denver and they didn't have room at the boarding school.
So then they came back and they stayed in Alamosa. But he did go to Denver at one time because my mother was very young when he first saw her, when he first went. And when he came back from school, she was already a little grown up, maybe 15 or 16 years old, you know. And I think, because he said she was real young when he first saw her, you know. And that's where they got a boarding schools that were away from home because there was no schools where they lived. They lived way out in the boonies, you know, where they had cattle, stuff like that, and sheep, and I don't know what all. And my mother went to school in Alamosa. She went to school. We went last summer to Alamosa, Bill and I, and we tried to research some of the archives, you know. And we found my Uncle Mark, and we found my grandmother, and but we couldn't find my grandpa. But
he didn't die there.
No, but we couldn't find anything about him, you know. But see, the guy that has the archives wasn't there that day, so we were doing it on our own. So it was kind of difficult. But my mother was born my mother was born actually in Rancho here in New Mexico. But they moved when she was a young lady to Alamosa. And she went to school there. So
how does the story go? He saw her again, and then what happened?
I guess he thought she was pretty cute. And so
I
then
thought he lived with him. He told me he lived with him and went to school there.
maybe the second time around, yeah.
Yeah, the second time around, when she was
Yeah.
already older.
Yeah, I remember. I guess he must have known because I remember he told me that she used to ride a bike to school, and they used to wear big skirts, you know, and the skirt got caught in the spokes, and she got hurt. She fell, and got hurt. I remember him telling us that. So he must have been there when she was old enough to ride a bike, you know, when she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You know, the stories are so sketchy. Here and there, you hear a little thing here and a little thing there. And so then he, of course, the parents had to ask for her hand in marriage. Bill's father and father came to ask for my hand in marriage. Remember?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. He did. Formally. Yes. And did it the old-fashioned way.
It's very formal too. They have a certain format.
Yeah.
Do you remember him coming to the door and the whole bit, or were you there?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I know he was coming. Yeah, he said, yeah, they thought that was the only way to do it. They did it that way. And
Well, what do you remember about that day?
I remember that my father-in-law was very, very nervous because I don't think he had met Dad. He had ever met Dad before. And he came up. He was a very simple man. My father-in-law is a very simple man, very, very good man. But he was very, very shy, a little shy, you know. Before he knew people and a little, you know. And would you get that, please? And he came to the door and he said,
Yeah, she's still on the broadcasting station.
"Who's calling? Is that Bill?"
Okay, I'll tell her. All right, bye-bye.
Who is that?
It's Bill. We stopped over at the gym. He's going to be a little late.
Okay, thank you. And I don't remember how they have a little sing-song that they do, you know, it was a kind of a format. And then he says to ask for his daughter, and he didn't say which one, you know, to his hand in marriage. And my dad said, "Which one? I have 3." You know?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and he got so embarrassed, you know. My father-in-law got really embarrassed, you know. My dad got a kind of a big kick out of that, you know.
my dad had kind of a
Carlos
idea
streak
that he
in him,
was-
yeah.
that he was better than other people.
Oh,
Not
I
better,
don't think so.
but,
I don't know.
well, I
He was a little arrogant,
A
I
little
think.
arrogant,
A little touch of arrogance. Because there were some people that we could, that we could associate with. Some people were kind of not, and he was nice to everybody because he helped everybody in the area. They used to come and borrow food in the wintertime, and then Dad had to go buy it in the spring, like, food like flour that he used to store for the winter, or other stuff that he used to store for the winter. And then Don Bifanio mostly used to come and he needed food for his family, so he'd take the food, and then Dad used to have to go buy it, because some of it. And he was very generous, very, very generous. He helped everybody. In fact, the Olguins were telling Marie, the Olguins is another family that lived close by, and he says, your family was kind of, or your brothers and our family was kind of like more like brothers to them, because she says, I remember we never had a car at home. They never owned a car. And so we needed to go somewhere. We'd go try to have them take us. And they says, no, just take the car. Just you can have it, They always knew they could use our car if they had a, and of course they never abused it, if they needed for some good reason, you could have a car. And so he was very generous, very, very generous. And he was, Frank, he was just like, of course, Frank says he calls himself pendejo like his dad, but my dad wasn't, I don't think was pendejo. He just was very generous, he used to help.
I think he was a little wiser than Frank.
I think he was a little wiser.
He knew who to lend things to.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but some people didn't ever pay him back.
Oh,
either.
yeah.
But he couldn't see, he used to say he couldn't see anybody not having food, so he didn't have the heart to do that, but I remember we had some cousins. We always had people living with us when we were young too. We had always somebody living with us, cousins or some, and we had a cousin named Juanita who was later a nun, and anyway, she used to be real feisty, and so one time one of these people came over to ask for wheat or flour or food, but some kind of something, I don't know. And she gets up and she says, Oiga, Don Pifanio, that was his name. He says, ¿Por qué no trabaja usted como trabaja mi tío? Why don't you work like my uncle does, so you'll have food in the wintertime? You remember that story?
No,
Yeah,
I
that was
was
funny.
too young.
That was
too young.
Juanita, yeah. Yeah, I remember that they used to talk about her. She was like Charles, too. She was another Charles. She used to just sound off at whatever, at any time that they were always worried when people were around that she was going to say something wrong, But, yeah. So what else do you want to know?
What did your dad think of Bill?
He liked Bill, but he said, I remember he used to write to Bill when he was overseas. And the only thing I ever heard him say bad about Bill, or not bad, but, he used to say, Bill es muy bueno, nomás que está nervioso. That he was very nervous. He used to say, es muy nervioso. I don't know what he told you about Bill.
Never
but
anything.
No, he
Dad
didn't.
was very close-mouthed about other people. He never talked. He never talked about people. I don't remember him talking about anybody. Bad.
Yeah.
Never, ever. I don't ever remember him saying.
No, he was very loyal to the family too. Very loyal. If you were married to somebody, that was it. That was part of the family, no matter what. That was, and like Bill, Bill was as much a part of the family as we were, and Jack or Ed,
Yeah.
or that's the way he felt. So.
I don't remember my dad ever saying something mean about anybody. Now that I think of it, I never remember him saying.
Do you think he had any opinion that you and my mother married white guys? Did he have any
No.
If he did, he certainly never said.
No allegiance to
Oh, no,
No.
culture.
no. He was
Okay.
very, very broad-minded about that. He really was. In fact, I don't think he had a prejudice except for Protestants.
No, he didn't like Protestants.
No, he
And
wasn't.
Jack
He didn't.
And Ed were both Catholics.
No, he didn't. He did not like him. We had Protestant friends. You know, we had Protestant neighbors, and he liked them well enough. He got along real well with them. He just didn't want. He wouldn't have wanted one of his kids to become Protestant. You know, I mean, he was very strong in his Catholic beliefs. You know, and the Protestantes were not inferior, but I don't think he didn't think they were inferior.
No, I don't think so.
But
I
they
never heard him
were
say
something that he didn't want mingling with his, that's why he didn't let Josephine go live with the Mears. They were very good friends. They were very good people. But that's the only reason that he and they wanted Josephine. But he said no.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that the Mears wanted.
Yeah, they did. And he just said no. He says they're Protestant people, and it's going to cause problems, you know. Because she's going to see they don't go to church, they don't do this, and you know, why should she do it, you know, and so on and so forth, you know. So I think that was probably his only real, because he used to say, I don't care who you girls marry as long as they're good, honest people. And, you know, and that included being Catholic, of course, I guess. He never thought about beyond that, you know, but he
used to tell me, about the only advice he told me was that he said, acuérdate, vinieron de gente fina.
What was that?
Vinieron de gente fina.
What's that?
You come from, fina means refined.
Mm-hmm.
Because refined, is that?
Yeah. You come from
From
the elite.
from the refined people.
The
You know,
refined
people,
people.
they didn't have to be rich or anything.
Rich, but you had
You had,
morals and, you know, fina.
fina is like something fine, you know, something.
Refined or good.
I don't, gente fina, they used to say that gente fina was, I don't know, people.
Let me see the dictionary.
Okay.
Let me get out of the way here.
Go right in. Don't let me trip you. Well, what do you think he meant by that? Do you think it was more because your upbringing or because your
upbringing.
lineage?
Yeah. Not so much the lineage, but the upbringing, the way that his ancestors were. They were all very fine people, you know. They didn't necessarily. They did have Dad's family and my mother's family had probably. They were fairly well off. They weren't rich or anything, but they were fairly well off. But what he meant by that was that they had a lot of culture and self-respect, and they respected people, and they were respected by people. That kind of thing, you know. Not necessarily that they had affluence, you know. But they respected people, and they were respected by people, and.
And what was the quote one more time? What did?
Era gente fina. Gente fina.
Remember that you came from refined people.
Now remember where you came from.
Yeah.
In other words, when you go out there. In other words, if you don't bring what is a scandal to the family, or you know, that kind of thing. You know, just remember where you came from.
He never sent me anything when I married you.
He liked Jack.
He never sent me a letter, and my dad never wrote to me.
He thought you had better sense than I did, maybe.
But by that time I was the last one married.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time you were the first girl,
Oh, yeah.
other than sister.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Jack, our Frank and Charles had real flash for the cars and all that kind of thing. They get that from your father, or no? Was it?
Flashy cars? No.
Yeah.
Well, Dad always had a car, but Dad more or less was a practical man, a very practical man. He had a car because he needed a car, you know. He never, although he was always kind of flashy in the way he dressed. Not flashy, but when he was older, he always dressed. He always dressed. He always wore a tie. If he wasn't out in the field, he always wore a tie. When he retired, he always had a tie on, or, you know, close collar. Or he always dressed not real fancy, but always with nice clothes, with clean clothes and stuff. You know, he was always very, very careful about that, even when he was old. And in fact, Gabriel used to tell him when he used to, because he used to spend part of the time after Gabriel took over the farm. He used to spend a lot of time with Gabriel, you know, helping him in the summer over there, and then in the winter he'd spend some time with Mark, or spend time with us, or, you know, just kind of spend his time and then he spent some time in Arizona, you know, because he had arthritis, or what he called rheumatism, and and when he'd go home, you know, he'd probably take the train or something and then walk from the station to the ranch. And Gabriel used to call him Truman. Here comes Truman, you know, because he said he looked like Truman, all dressed up, you know, with a tie and shirt. Now he kind of resembled him too, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, you know, the way his stature and his white hair and stuff. You know. And
Pino is courteous, urbane, a polished education and manners.
yes, probably what
and
it is.
refined.
Refined, yeah. Banners refined, and people had banners and stuff, you know. So, what else do you want?
Anything else you want to tell me?
Oh, there's a lot of things I probably could tell you, but you know, they don't all cover at the same time.
It's all right. I was just asking. Any advice from me on raising
And
a
racing.
daughter and a new baby coming in a month?
Oh gosh, that's something that you will know when, you know, just like I told you, spend a lot of time with them, and love them and take good care of them, and then you'll and just teach them, you know, right from wrong. That's it. It's very simple. Mark had a very good advice for raising kids one time, and when he was to me, you know, it was good advice. Mark, my son, not my brother, my son. One time when he asked me, Mom, he says, how do you raise kids? And raise them with in a very strict way, in a way, you know, keep them real, and keep them in the straight and narrow, in other words, without breaking their spirit, you know. In other words, you know, and I said, well, honey, I think it requires a lot of some discipline, but a lot of love, and the discipline has to be with love. I think, you know, not real harsh and make them feel like they're nothing, you know, at the time that it's being applied, and try to explain the reason why. And the only reason my dad used to give us, he never give us any reason. He always says, es porque los quiero que los corrijo, no porque no los quiero. Si no los quisiera, no. He says, in other words, it's because I love you, it's because I punish you, not because if I didn't care about you, I'd let you go any way you want to go. You know, that type of thing. But I think that a little bit of explanation, you know, this is going to, you know, it's going to hurt you in the end. It's because it might hurt you later, and I don't want that to happen to you. And, you know, I think that would help a lot in letting him know that they're being corrected because it's for their good and not because you're upset with it. You know, not to satisfy your anger or your disappointment or whatever. I don't know.
Go by instincts.
An instinct. And you know, every child is different. You need different different what is it? The tactics with different kids, different discipline with different kids, because some of them need a lot, some of them don't need any, and some of them need very little. So. But you're going to enjoy your kids. I know you are.
Oh, I know.
You already did. You already. I remember when my first child was born. My brother Mark wrote me a letter, and he said, you know, now, she says, you see that baby and you love it, and you think you couldn't love him anymore. He says, but wait till he starts getting big and he begins to return that love to you. He says, then you will really know what love is, you know. Yeah. I wish I had that letter. I might have it somewhere. I don't know.
I have a letter from Frank. That's the only letter
I had a lot of letters from the boys when they were overseas. But I think they also went by the wayside when I left home, you know. And but I did keep. They used to send you this little handkerchiefs that said all little poems. No, I never knew a sister like you. You know little poems like that. And the other day I ran into them. I have one from Gabriel. I have one from Mark, one from Charles, and one from Frank. I have all 4 of them. Yeah. And they haven't really deteriorated that much. But when they were overseas, you know, when they were in service.
What else? She miss anything she needs to tell me about your dad? Or?
There was a lot of things about my dad that I didn't admire when I was growing up because he was very strict.
I didn't like my dad very much when I was young, but I sure liked him after I was 30.
I know. Yeah, he was very, very strict. And I look back and I thought, boy, he was kind of mean because he didn't let us do anything and he was very, very strict.
He wouldn't let us, I mean, he wanted to know where we were, wherever we were. And, and I mean, but he was good too because when we lived in Durango, we were kind of poor. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money.
What did he do in Durango? So he left Tiffany.
He went to school. He went to work for a forest service of some sort. I don't know. You don't even know what. He used to take some men out and cut wood, big trees. And he got hurt there. A branch fell on his shoulder and he got hurt. We used to have a cousin that he hired. He was a drunk. And remember Shimmy?
Yes.
And so he hired to go work for him, you know. And every weekend he would get drunk.
He was a real drunk.
He was a real drunk. He'd go drunk. He was drunk 5 minutes after his paycheck, and then he'd have to go pull him out of jail. He always ended up in jail. Monday morning he used to have to take him out of jail, take him to work. He'd work the whole week, fine, and then weekend. And I used to say to him, Daddy, well, don't pay him. You know, he didn't have any money. He was kind of a relative, you know. He called me Prima. And he used to stick his hand in his pocket. Do you remember that? Prima, this is all I have left, Prima, but I'm going to give it to you. All the money I have left, I'm going to give to you. He'd open up and he'd have a dime in his pocket. Anyways, he was a real drunk. Anyway, remember that time he decided he was going to be good and he was going to go to mass with us that day and he was going to stay home. And so Frank was more or less his size. He was a small man and Frank was more, and Frank used to have a lot of real nice clothes when he was young. So we dug up his blazer and pants and shirt for him, dressed him up, took him to church because in those days everybody dressed to go to church. And he went to church with us. And when we came back, we always used to have a Sunday dinner at noon. And we ate lunch or dinner. It was dinner for us. And we had some steps on the back porch. And the last time I saw him, he was sitting back there on those steps. You know, it was kind of shady and stuff, and he was sitting back there. Before we knew it, he disappeared. He was gone. And when he came back on Monday, when Dad brought him home on Monday to go to work, he had this shirt that came down to here, big old shirt. They had taken his clothes. And he was dressed.
Frank's clothes,
and-
he was so mad.
He was, well, I don't think Frank wasn't there, but I was mad at him because those were Frank's good clothes, you know. So he used to love to tease me, you know, and about the boyfriends, you know, like the boyfriends, because we used to have a boyfriend that had a car that went. Remember how we used to go? It had kind of a song on the horn, you know, it go, you know, and he used to just tease me about that, you know. Anyways, every time he started to tease me about that, I says, "Yeah, remember?" I says, "When they put that elbow on you." Shut up! You don't want to hear any more about it. Oh gosh! But anyways, Josephine was saying the other day, we weren't very nice to Dad.
No, we weren't.
And I said, "Why?" I thought we were pretty nice. and she says, "You know what? He used to have, in Tiffany, he used to have credit at the grocery store. Could buy anything we wanted.
In Durango, too.
And we did it. We did. We bought candy. We bought whatever we felt like buying. And then he'd just go pay the bill at the end of the whatever. And the same thing in Durango. We lived on lunch meats. And, we were lazy. We didn't know how to cook, I guess. And we'd go buy stuff at that little store.
It was right down the street.
Yeah, right down the street from us. And we'd just buy whatever we
Every
wanted.
day we'd go to the store.
Yeah. Put it on the bill. Oh, sure, Mr. Johnson was happy to put it on the bill. He knew the Dad was going to come pay it, you know. And I guess, did he complain about it?
I don't ever remember him
Oh,
complaining.
no, I would have.
He also worked at the cemetery.
Yeah, he worked at the cemetery.
He dug graves and mowed and, watered. And all
Yeah, that time. Yeah, during the war, he did that. So he did. Yeah.
He worked hard.
Yeah, you said you thought you were poor in Durango. Was that after he got hurt, or was it just because the jobs didn't bring enough pay, or what was going on?
No, we weren't really
We
poor.
weren't really poor, but we didn't have a lot of extra money to spend. But we always had money to go to the movies every weekend.
And we had money to buy stuff at the store.
Yeah, he never told us you couldn't go. He dug it up from somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, but, we didn't have a lot of nice clothes or, we didn't live in a good house. I mean, it was good enough, but I mean, it wasn't.
It was just as good as the one I have now.
Oh, sure.
Yes, it was. It was just a house.
What happened with his shoulder? I mean, was that a long recovery thing, or do you remember?
No, that was a funny thing. Not the fact that he got hurt, but he got hurt. It was he cracked his shoulder blade, his collarbone. Anyways, I never knew. He was very, very straight laced. Most of the time he didn't. Once in a while he'd get around, but not very often. And then when he was coming out of surgery, he was singing. I didn't even know he knew this song. I wonder who's kissing her now. Did you learn that song? I wonder who's showing her how. I wonder if she ever
Dreaming of me.
is dreaming of me. I wonder who's kissing her now. And I thought it was so funny, that he would be singing that song. And he was real pleasant to the nurses. Oh, he loved those nurses, And when he got out of the hospital, first thing he did was go take him a big box of chocolates. Why doesn't he buy me a big chocolate? I was selfish, I guess.
I remember they taped him.
Mm-hmm.
Now they just leave the collarbones to heal. But he was taped all around.
Oh, yeah.
And when they took off the tape, he almost hit the doctor because it hurt so bad.
Oh, yeah. He had a hard time with that, too. He was a crybaby, too. My daddy was a crybaby. He'd cry about things, mostly about when the boys were overseas, he'd cry. Or when he talked about something
He was
terrible.
very sentimental.
Very sentimental, yeah. But he was very stern as well. He could be both. And I remember one time he used to get really upset with Josephine because she wouldn't pay any attention to him. Tell him to do something, and she wouldn't pay. And he used to get really mad at her, you know. And one day he thought about it. He says, "Pues qué está sorda? You know, is she deaf?" So he took her to the doctor, and her ears were full of wax. They had to take.
She was sorda.
She was sorda. All this time he was really upset with her because she wouldn't pay.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember if Josephine remembers. I asked her sometimes if she remembers. She had her ears full of wax. The doctor had to dig in there and take them out. Oh dear. And then when we had the toothache, do you think we got to go to the doctor? It wasn't until I was older that I went to the dentist.
It wasn't until I was in high school.
They used to pull our teeth out. Just pull them out. And even if we went to the dentist would pull them out. They wouldn't fill them. That's how come we ended up with all kinds of bad teeth, I imagine. You remember when Josephine used to work for Dr. Moynihan?
Mm-hmm.
She was so funny. She'd come home every day with a story about she was supposed to be the Spanish translator for the doctor, you know. She'd come home with all kinds of stories, cute little stories about what happened that day. Josephine was a real lively, fun type of person. Really, she still is, you know. She's always laughing. She had a lot of boyfriends.
She'd have a date in the morning, and then she'd come home and have a date in the afternoon. She'd have a date at night, different guy.
Yeah, she was. There was a period where we lived together, the three of us, in after. Well, Josephine was still in school.
She's still in high school.
She was still in high. She went to Loreto that year. She was in Loreto. Anyway, so she was the cook because she was taking home ec, I think, huh?
She always liked to cook.
She liked to cook. She was the cook. I was the one that clean. I'm the cleaning lady. So I like to clean. And you were the one who used to do the ironing, remember?
Okay, hang on. Ironing person, come over here, Aunt Susan. I got to get you in here. You guys are talking so much about things now that across, and we need both of you.
Oh, Lord.
No, we're going to forget everything.
I know. Ouch.
Oh, this is when we were older, but Josephine and I and Susan, remember this? I don't know if you remember. We used to have so much money, and we'd spend it, I think, the first we got paid every 2 weeks.
Yeah, every 2
And I
weeks.
think by the first week we were pretty broke. You know, we didn't have a whole lot of money. And one day we were thinking, I sure would like to go to the movies, but we didn't have any money. And I've always prayed to St. Anthony, you know. And we were thinking, and then we used to put things everywhere. Maybe we can find money somewhere, you know. And so
We said, say a prayer to St.
say
Anthony.
the prayer to St. Anthony.
And then go look in the pockets. Go look in all your pockets.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
we all started, said a prayer to St. Anthony. Started looking everywhere. I walked straight to the bookcase. Remember that?
And the picture fell off.
Yeah.
We had a picture on the bookcase,
Behind the picture.
and there was a little breeze through the window. The picture fell off, and how much money was there?
$7.
We went to the movies. How about
I'll
that?
never forget that. Talk about answering prayer.
We were just, oh God. And then Daddy used to come sometime and bring a cabrito, remember? A half a cabrito, and we put it in the oven. And, you know, a little goat. Cabrito's a little goat, you know, all dressed and everything. Stick it in the oven, you know. Oh gosh, that was really a treat, you know, for us.
We used to have a lot of fun. She was the taskmaster though.
I was.
Oh yeah, I used to tell us she was the mother. You know?
Yeah, I used to make it. Josephine says, you used to make me wash the sideboards, but I used to have to do it at home, so I thought I'd just pass on the task to her. She said, I don't remember that, but she told me the other day.
Yeah,
She told me, she said, she used to make me wash the sideboards. Every Saturday I had to wash the
we
sideboards.
used to ask her if we could go places, and she said no. And she said,
Oh, come on, Suzanne, not me.
yes, you.
I was,
And you couldn't get up in the morning. Oh, Lord, that was worse than anything.
I used to put the alarm clock in the kitchen. Because I had to get up real early when I worked at Los Alamos. I used to put the alarm clock in the kitchen. And when it rang, I'd have to go from the bedroom all the way into the kitchen to turn it off. Otherwise, and then on the way back, stop in the bathroom and wash my face. Otherwise, I would go back to bed and forget about it.
We used to, Louise, get up. 5 more minutes. Louise, get up. 5 more minutes.
Let's not talk about the reason.
Sometimes her ride would come and she'd still be in bed. She'd get up.
I'd be combing my hair anyway.
It's a good thing they had, 20 some hours to go from Santa Fe to Los Alamos.
Yeah, it's a little ways. About half an hour I had to get myself cleaned up before I got
It
there.
was funny.
Yeah.
Jo always had really good meals, though. She used to
Yeah.
get these cookbooks.
Yeah.
She went to school, so she'd get home before we did.
She always had a lot of friends too, didn't she?
Always.
She always had people trailing after her. She still does, though. Everywhere she goes, she meets friends. She's very down. She's like Frank. Frank's that way too. Everywhere he goes, he meets friends. I'm a little standoffish, I think, in a way. It takes me a while to make friends. I have to kind of look at it for a little while. I have some people that say that are my good friends now that say he was such a snob. I said, I wasn't a snob. I don't know. I think I'm more shy than snobbish. I remember I had a friend that she was a black girl, and Cleo and I. You remember Jimmy Lee?
No, I don't think I remember.
Well, anyway, she was a friend of Cleo's, and Cleo was a friend of mine. And later she became my friend too. She was a very nice girl. Anyway, she told me one night she wrote her mother, and she says, I met some girls here. She says, Cleo, I like Cleo, but damn her roommate. I said, thanks. She told me that herself.
But when I came from high school to live with her, I mean, she was like my mother. I had to ask permission to go out.
Oh, yeah, heck, if you had gotten in trouble, I would have gotten it. Yeah. She came to live with me because she got a job at the hospital. I saw
To
X-ray.
study X-ray.
But did you ask Louise, or did your father arrange for?
Actually, I
in.
think Louise was the one that arranged it.
I
Oh, okay.
arranged it. I arranged for her to come. Yeah, because they needed somebody there, and I thought, well, she could probably do this. So she came, and then Josephine and Dad moved, and Josephine was still in school, so she went to Redo. So she
went to Los Alamos first.
She went to
Frank and Ida.
Frank and Ida, yeah, and then
She didn't like it.
She didn't like it. You know, it's hard to stay with another family, no matter if it's your close family. I mean, if it had been, I think she would have liked it better with Isabel and Charles. Because Isabel was more easygoing. Ida was a very nice person, but she was I don't know, a different personality, I would say.
I don't think she was used to teenagers. And they didn't have any children. And Frank was, Frank would go off to work and she'd be, she stayed like, 6 months?
Yeah.
And then she came to live with
Then
us.
she came to live and Dad just put her in Loretto. And she was happy there.
Oh yeah, she really liked it there. It's an all-girls school.
But with you guys, is that why she liked
she
it?
stayed with
Three of
us. Yeah.
Okay.
And Dad would come in the winter. Dad would come and stay with us in the winter. But she wasn't a boarder. She was
a day
student. Yeah. And,
They had boarders and they had day kids. She really liked it. In fact, she still sees some of her
well, she was
friends.
supposed to come this year, remember? to a reunion, and then Ed got sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the people from here still ask me about it, but 2 or 3 of them that she knew always asking about it. And I don't know if she's ever gotten in touch with him or not.
So who dated the most out of you three?
I would say Joe.
Well, yeah, probably. Joe.
Well, she just had a lot of different boyfriends scattered around.
Yeah, she did.
Did you have any steady ones?
At
During
that
that time?
time, maybe a couple, but not too many.
Yep.
I didn't have any.
Oh,
I was
no.
a good girl.
Oh, come on.
I had when I met Bill, I had 2 boyfriends, or 2 guys that I used to go out with, and I remember I had 2 pictures. One of I had a picture of each one of them, 2 pictures, and we had a mantle in the apartment we lived, and if one of them would come over, I'd take that picture down and put that picture on. And then if the other one would come over, I'd put the other picture up, take that one down. And then one day, who was it? I think Tilly or one of my roommates, she says, what picture are we going to put up today?
I don't remember that. That
You
was
don't-
before I came.
Yes, before you came, we were living on and oh gosh, we used to have, and one time, we did this one time, when we were young, my cousin Selena was from Uncle Petito's side of the family, she came to she was at the university at the time, and she came to live with us that summer, because she wanted to work I got her a job at the hospital, I think. I don't remember where. But anyway, she just came for the summer to work there. And she lived with us. Anyways, she met some guys that wanted to go out, wanted to take us out. They're from Espanola. And so she said, you know what? These guys are coming over on Sunday. And I said, so who are they? And she said, oh, this guy by the name of Junior Bustos. Oh, I said, I don't want to go out with him. And she says, well, he's got another friend, And I says, well, I'll have to see. When they come up the walk, I'll have to see who they are. Anyways, and he says, if you don't want to go, and I says, if I don't want to go, you can tell him I'm really sick. And so I pretended I was very, very sick.